This episode, we're not taking you to the danger zone. We're taking you to the place where all bad movies go.
The suck zone.
Welcome to Season 3 of Good Times with Bad Movies. I'm Paul Ireland. Joining me as always is my lovely co-host, Tim the Extreme Morrison. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling so extreme, Paul. So extreme.
That's good. Me too, man. I'm glad to be back. Season 3. Here we go, Tim. This is a really exciting moment here.
It is. We took our longest break that we've had since we started the podcast.
Took us a little bit to get some things on track there, Tim, but really excited. And we're back. And what better way to kick it off than with 1996's Twister from Warner Brothers.
Yes, we are finally doing a disaster movie. We've tossed a bunch of different titles around for a while, and we settled on Twister. I'm sure there's other ones that we could have covered. I never considered suggesting Geostorm until after we watched this, but
I've never seen, I don't know what that is, but the core, that was, I just remember in grade 11 geology class, my teacher brought us in and sat us down one day and was like, guys, everything in this movie is scientifically incorrect, and let's go through it and explain it. And it was pretty awesome, actually. So we probably could have done that. Volcano, Dante's Peak. Remember that one?
Yes. I went to the theater to see Dante's Peak.
That was all right, actually. It was okay. It's not really that great. It's okay, but
I'm not sure. Those are movies that, in my mind, I kind of have fond memories of it, but I'm pretty sure I'd probably feel different if I were to sit down and watch it over.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there was a lot of those disaster movies back in the 90s, like Armageddon.
I think while we're talking about what we think is good and bad, we should probably have another disclaimer like we do with many other episodes where I'm sure, I know a lot of people that love this movie. This movie was huge. I remember when I was young, this was a big deal when this came out. And I want to say it's probably in part too that this came out before the age of cell phones and the internet for the most part. So the idea of seeing a giant tornado on a movie screen was awesome because most people never saw them unless you caught those wildest storm specials and stuff like that used to come on TV late at night every now and then, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is kind of like Jurassic Park in the sense that this was another giant blockbuster with huge effects, VFX that looked pretty legit for the time. I mean, now when we go through this, you're kind of I don't know about that, especially that cow. You're okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But, for the time, this is pretty good. And I remember when this came out, I was in love with this movie. Me and my friends, we used to play storm hunters and stuff. Someone would be a tornado and we'd have to basically tackle the guy, which made no sense anyways, right?
Yeah.
But, I really enjoyed this movie and I really liked the soundtrack when I was a kid. Looking back on it now, there's a bunch of songs that I think really are not good, but there is some good stuff on here too.
Yeah, there's some good songs in this. So yeah, so just because you like it, don't hate us for hating on this because we're going to for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little fun. It's the bad movie subreddit, really. It's just bad movies that people like. That's kind of what this is, That whole subreddit come to life.
So for people who haven't seen Twister or have no idea what it's about, here's the basic synopsis for you. Bill and Joe Harding, advanced storm chasers on the brink of a divorce, must join together to create an advanced weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshairs of extremely violent tornadoes. And kind of the way, I guess, the tragedy of the Titanic just wasn't good enough without the love story between Jack and Rose, or Pearl Harbor, that tragedy, just the story wasn't good enough without having that love story between Brad Pitt and whatnot. Tornadoes, they're just not as exciting without a divorce, or a couple on the brink of love is just in the trenches. They just, we need that story as a companion to go along with these disasters.
Yeah, you need a little bit of that love intrigue, I guess, in this too. It's just not enough. There has to be something else at stake, not just people's lives. There has to be romance in people's hearts, I guess. You're right. That's a good one, Tim. But I think we're going on a little bit too much here. Why don't we just jump on into this movie and let's start chasing a storm? What do you think?
All right, let's twist again.
Like we did last year.
So this movie starts out with some very, very spooky music. almost like you'd be like starting a horror movie or something like that. But it's also very windy, and we see in graphics Twister. That's the name of the movie. So it is June of 1969 in Oklahoma, and there are some dark clouds overhead on this, like, I don't know, it's like a kind of like prairie lands. There's a bunch of like oil drilling and stuff going on. And anyways, there is a big giant storm looming overhead, thunder and lightning. Father, his big wife.
Right on. Starting this year off on a mature note. That's right.
All right.
Okay.
A farmer and his wife and their daughter are kind of panicking because they can tell that there is potentially a bad tornado on the way. So they are running around grabbing everything they can except for the dog, because they are running out of the house and into this like little, I guess you'll call it a storm shelter bunker. It's basically like this little hole in the ground that they have. So they all go down into the hole. They manage to get the dog in there as well. And the mother and the daughter, they go to the back of this little compartment, and the mother lights a candle, and the father closes the door behind them. It is a wooden door with windows. This is a very, very thin wooden door.
With glass.
Yeah, with glass. So, and it appears as though it's not even held shut by a padlock. It's just like an eye hook lock. So kind of, I don't understand like why they're not more prepared. Or maybe it wasn't normal. Maybe they never had tornadoes before, but this is Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure this is like kind of a regular thing. So they're down there, and this storm is raging, and it appears as though that the tornado is directly above them. This door is almost going to open. It's wobbling, going up and down. And the father, he goes up and he's like, "No way, this door is not going. This door is not opening." And he holds on the door handle for all he can, all of his strength. But the tornado rips the door off, and he doesn't let go. So he just goes sailing out into this tornado with the door. I don't understand why he didn't let go. Now, and by the way, his family, his wife and daughter are, I don't know, 10 feet away from him?
Yeah.
Even the candle, even their lantern doesn't blow out. Like, even like the small dog, everything. Like this twister is enough to lift a door off of its hinges and take a human up into it. But they're fine. They're totally fine.
You're right. I noticed that too. I'm like, there's so many problems with this. Like, it's a thin little wooden door with glass. There's windows everywhere around this little bunker. You think this would just be underground with dirt on top and maybe a door, just like a big, thick, heavy wooden door, something like that, right? You're right. There's like a little latch that you would use for like a cupboard, like a little childproof lock. Maybe, and it's got like a 1/2-inch screw in there. That's it. That's all that's holding it in there. You think this thing would be like a heavy, huge bolt or something that you would have to like physically every time, like, and there'd be like a chunk and a ching every time you move this bolt, because it'd be so heavy. You'd be like, I want this door to survive like an F5 hurricane.
One of the things I like about this movie is how quickly the tone just like changes, like really, really quick. So, it was 1969. Her father just got swept up and killed by a giant tornado. And now we're gonna lighten things up a little bit. And now we're in the present day, and everyone's happy again, and we are storm chasers as adults. And Joe is all grown up now, and she has a ragtag crew of storm chasers. And they don't seem like they have a whole lot of money. Like I get the impression that they're all using their own personal vehicles for chasing these storms. I don't really know where they've been. I have a lot. I'll get into more questions for that because I really wonder what they were doing prior to the time of this movie. But they're storm chasers. So, anyways, we are introduced here to Bill Paxton. His name is also Bill in the movie. So, Bill is going to meet his ex-wife, Jo, to finalize their divorce because he sent her papers back in December and he just needs her to sign them so that him and his current girlfriend can get married and he can move on with the rest of his life. Because he is so over Jo. He just wants to move on with the new love of his life. That is his number one priority.
Yeah. That and becoming a weatherman. That's right. And Joe's technically right now isn't his ex-wife. This is his soon-to-be ex-wife, I believe. Once she signs the papers, this kind of makes the divorce official, I believe, right?
Yes, that's right.
And it's weird, too, because they seem to be on very amicable terms once they meet each other in this movie here. Like, they're very friendly with each other. And this Jo, a.k.a. Helen Hunt, is very nosy and kind of almost aggressive to this other lady we're going to see in this movie here. It's kind of weird, actually.
Well, he kind of shows up. I think she's kind of surprised by Bill showing up here. They're just like in the middle of a cornfield, a farm area or something like that, tinkering with all of their weather machinery. They're very non-descriptive with the stuff that they use, but they use a lot of, I can tell that the producers put a lot of effort into making it sound right, but I don't understand what the hell most of it is. Well, it would seem as though Bill has not been with this team for a long time. Him and Jo, before before their relationship fell apart, he was like the head of the team, chasing storms. And they call him Extreme Bill.
The Extreme.
Because he's so extreme. We'll get into that later on. They're going to fill us in for... They're going to totally explain and qualify why he's so extreme later on.
Yeah, I like in this movie, too, this is almost like the Discovery Channel trying to make something sound really hardcore to you, you know? That's what this whole movie feels like because even when they talk about the storms and stuff, when the tornadoes, the terminology they have for it, they're like, oh, that's a big fatty over there.
Yeah.
I love some of the lingo in here. They try to make it sound cool and hip. And I guess if you were a storm chaser, you'd probably have a little shorthand for all this stuff too, right? But this kind of brings me to my favorite character in this movie, a guy who is responsible for a lot of the weird lingo and a lot of the funny phrases in this movie, Dusty, a.k.a. Philip Seymour Hoffman. I love this man. This dude is hilarious. He's out rocking in a camper van here to Eric Clapton, trying to set up little satellites and wire stuff up, it seems like. I love this guy in this movie. He's got some of the best lines.
He seems like, I guess you'd call him like an adrenaline junkie, but he's like a really big kid. Like, I don't even know. I'm not sure what his character is. He seems like way overhyped. He's like the hype man of the storm chasers, you could say.
He is. He's like, it's like, I feel like, again, the family-friendly version of like a surfer or like something like that, where he's like, "Yo, we're extreme, man," but like we eat our vegetables. He's that guy, kinda. But he's also got some sketchy lines in this too, which we're gonna go over in a second here, I think.
So Bill shows up here. The whole team is super happy to see him. They immediately assume that he is back to join them. However, he makes it clear that he is not there to do any storm chasing. And he repeats that over and over and over throughout this initial visit here. And he confronts Jo, his ex-wife, about these papers. "Just give me the papers, Jo." She's like, "Well, fine." So she takes them out, hands them to him, but she forgot to sign one of the papers. So darn, they can't get the divorce quite yet. And then Jo realizes that Bill wants these papers signed because he wants to move on and get married to his new girlfriend who is with him. Her name is Melissa. And Melissa is a therapist who has absolute zero interest in weather. Like, she seemed like she has no idea what these guys are doing at all. And they explain to her, aka the viewers, that they have this new machine that they've been building for a very long time. And basically, it is a round capsule that you would put on the back of a truck, and it has a bunch of little balls in it that are linked to a satellite. So The idea is they will open up this canister and all these giant balls will go out when they get if they can get close enough to a tornado, and then they can map the inside of a tornado so that they can understand what is really going on in there. What is going on in the suck zone? And that's what Dusty says. Philip Seymour Hoffman. He calls it the suck zone. They want to get in the middle of it. And they want to know what's going on so that they can increase the amount of time that they can warn people prior to an approaching tornado.
Let's play a clip here. This is Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he's going to explain to you and everybody else a little something about tornadoes.
The suck zone. It's the point, basically, at which the twister sucks you up. I mean, that's not that technical term for it, obviously, but...
Hi.
I like that. The suck zone. Obviously, like, you know, the time too, and just how they edit that and put that in there. You're like, where are we going with this suck zone thing? You know, that's a risque edit, I think. That one's for the adults. So you're right, Tim. Basically, they explain to Melissa that Dorothy here will, if they can map out a tornado, they can help improve response times. They say right now that it's only about 3 minutes, and they could advance it to about 15 minutes. And spoiler, I actually looked it up, what the average response time for a tornado is in the U.S. I think it's about 13 minutes, 12 or 13 minutes. So, and no one, I don't think anyone's ever mapped a tornado out. But anyways, so they, all of a sudden, they get like a phone call from their buddies out in the field, and they're like, we think there's a storm coming up here. And so everybody now just flies out. Again, with the papers not being signed for the divorce. So Bill and Melissa have to jump in their truck now, and they have to chase everybody out to this storm. And I had a question here, because they literally just told you have a 3-minute warning only for this storm. Okay. They've just had somebody else tell them, hey guys, we think there's a storm coming. And we just see them drive in this movie for a few minutes here. What seems to be more than 3 minutes to me in a real life. So would that not equate to a response time, to being some sort of response time?
You would think so, but I mean, I think the impression that I got is like at the very beginning of the movie, they stated that we saw like a weather alert for this area of Oklahoma, that it's, I guess, over the next day or two, there's so many storms that are colliding that it's the chances of there being a few tornadoes is very high. So I guess it's kind of like, I guess really what counts as a warning time? Like what counts as like, when does the time start officially? Like if the people are on the radio and they say, hey, you know, sometime over the next day, there could be tornadoes. Is that not 24 hours notice? Or, you know, or are we, you know, I don't know.
I mean, to me, again, like, I'm just like, if you guys know about this storm, why aren't you guys setting off a siren? Do other people know about this too? And like, why not at least just let people know, hey guys, there could be a tornado coming. Here's a siren, you know?
But let's come back to that a little bit, because I have another point to make about that that I'll agree with you. Because we find out there is actually a bit of a warning system here that isn't used for some reason, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
That's right. So as they're blazing down the road here, going towards the storm with an undesignated amount of response time, we don't know. We basically find, or there's a bunch of these black Dodge Caravans that come up beside them now. That I guess in 1996, that was kind of cool. Now I'm like, this is the lamest van I've ever seen in my life. And these guys come up beside them, and you find out now that this is somebody named Jonas and his group of goons, and they are also storm chasers. Okay, but apparently, this is what I love, is Bill lets us know here that they're not actually in it for the science. They're in it for the money.
They're just in it for the money. Yeah.
I love this movie. I love that you're trying to get this wholesome thing out of these people. Like, these guys are only the nice guys. We're doing it for the science, guys, not the money. These guys, I mean.
And it shows, too, because, I mean, the trucks, systems, everything that they have is of significant higher quality than our ragtag crew of storm chasers here. Clearly, the money seems to be helping their cause a bit more.
It's just like, this is a very specific field, guys, and you're trying to do one very weird thing and engineer it Do you think a lot of people are in this right now? They're like, this is very lucrative. We could just almost get sucked up into a tornado in the middle of Oklahoma. We can make, there's money to be had here. What do you think, Jim?
It's like, what are they doing? Like, that's my tornado. I called it. Like,
like tow truck drivers going towards her. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But here's something also I found weird in this movie now. Because as they're racing down the road and they have this conversation, like one of these trucks, they almost run Bill off the road. And all of a sudden, he like snaps a wheel and you hear like a tsh, and he's like, ah, damn it. They show up to a gas station now, okay, where Jonas and his gang are, and the Motley Crew are, and...
What was the rush?
Right? Okay, so there's multiple questions I have here. One, he drove there. And he pulls out a tire that doesn't really look damaged. It literally just bounces, and he bounces, and he gives it to the guy, and he goes, can you fix it? And the guy's like, yeah, give me about an hour. And then so did he change his tire, and he's got the donut on right now, and that's another tire he wants patched up for now? And then also too, was there a storm? Did they go to a storm? Did everyone just give up and went to go have pancakes or something? And
I think they were just like, we need to get to this checkpoint as soon as possible. Because the thing is, too, the rival team, the one that just ran him off the road, is also there. And they're just standing around showing off their alleged stolen version of the Dorothy machine. Because they're trying to do the same thing. They've got this machine that they want to try and use to map out the inside of a tornado. They want to get in that suck zone too and get that sweet money. So they're just showing it off. Like the crowd is around here and they're showing it off. We're just forgetting about the whole tornado warning for now, like you said. And Bill is livid. He is so angry to see they basically stole their machine, even though Bill has nothing to do with storm chasing anymore. He's moving on. He's got a new life with a new girlfriend that he's gonna marry, but he's still really angry about this. And then this guy gives him the ultimate insult. This rivalry guy, his rival here, he says, "Have fun being a weatherman." And boy, that sends Bill into a rage. The whole team has to hold him back because he is gonna kill this guy for calling him a weatherman. Which why is that such an insult? Like, what? He is a weatherman, and I'm willing to bet that he's going to make a lot more money being a weatherman than he is chasing these tornadoes. But I guess he's not in it for the money.
That's right. You know what, though? I think you're right. It is definitely a steady source of income. I also thought it was hilarious too, because I'm like, this guy Bill is going to go and be a weatherman, like you said, on a television station. There are news cameras right now that are live filming this guy talking about his invention, and you're gonna attack this guy on camera. How fast are you not gonna be the weatherman for this station or whatever? I know it's like, because it's also a little blow to him, because it's like, hey man, like you went all like corporate man, but it's not really like kind of sold out, but didn't really. This other guy's also kind of sold out too. He's got a venture capitalist dude backing him. The whole thing is just, people in glass houses. Let's say that.
Why would a storm chaser even have his nose turned up so high at a weatherman? Like,
sorry. Could I also say too? I also found it really weird that he got more pissed off about the guy stealing his invention, or allegedly stealing his invention, than he did about them just trying to run him off the road and potentially killing him and his fiance 2 seconds ago. That also seemed really weird to me, that he was just like, yeah, forget about that. Don't worry about it. This I'm pissed off about. Jamie Gertz, this is a red flag to you, man. Come on, Melissa. Don't do this. This is not good. This man is not the man for you.
She hasn't gotten the hint yet, and she is in the diner now with Joe. They just happen to be at the counter at the same time. And Melissa can see that Joe is still very much in love with Bill. And basically says, he's mine. And Joe's like, well, I'm going to buy you a drink. So she does. And before she leaves, she says, Bill has a real gift. He's like, what do you mean? Well, they look out the window, Bill's out there, and he's like kneeling down on the ground. He's like smelling around a little bit, picking up handfuls of dirt and watching them drop to see which way the wind's going. And she reveals that Bill almost has like a sixth sense for tornadoes. He just knows. He's like a dog. Like dogs can tell the barometric pressure changes and that kind of thing. Bill is like a dog. He's a tornado sniffer.
He's a tornado whisperer.
Yes. So going back to what you said just a little bit ago about why aren't these people warning the public? So this guy is a human tornado detector, and he does not warn anybody because he senses right now that they are, in fact, a tornado's approaching. He's like, all right, guys, we got to go. We got to go. Bill, the guy who made it clear, and he spent the last 20 minutes going on and on about how he's not involved, not into this at all. He's like, all right, honey, you get in the truck. I'm going with my ex-wife. And he does. He leaves his fiance in the back to be at the very back of the convoy, and he drives up front with his ex-wife.
You're right. He's got like some sort of like Stephen King power, like Christopher Walken in Dead Zone or something, right? And like, but with storms, and he doesn't tell anybody.
Nobody. Donner, 4 people. So many people around.
Not even like, hey guys, there's a storm coming. Everybody, get to shelter. Call it whatever, right? Like you're right. He's just like, hey, there's a storm coming. We need to go. We're totally gonna put our Dorothy thing in the sky. Like that's it. I love this though. Everybody is just so amped up to be chasing the storm now. Everyone is hooting and hollering and screaming. They're playing Van Halen down the road here. This is pretty good. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of chaos a little bit too. Like they don't seem to have like much of a route. Like they see a tornado form, and they're just like, you know what? Take a left here, because Bill also can sense which direction it's going, like which way it's leaning, where the wind's going. So the idea for this Dorothy machine to work is that for them to get as close to the tornado as possible. So they've gone off road. To a point where they are basically driving through a creek, it seems like, through the middle of a farm. And they come to this bridge, and at first they're going to try and use Dorothy. I guess they have 4 versions of Dorothy, by the way. So throughout this movie, they have 4 tries at this. And now they don't have enough time. This tornado has approached. All they can do is get out of the truck and go underneath of this really small bridge.
Yeah, they just drive it into a culvert.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like there's that much shelter, but apparently there's enough. But here's the crazy thing, okay? They're underneath this little culvert. This tornado is on top of them. Okay, it starts lifting boards off of the top of this bridge. Their truck goes up in the air and gone. Completely gone. These two are completely unaffected. We have I don't know how much Bill Paxton weighs, but I'm going to just take a guess and say 200 pounds. This thing lifts a 1/4-ton truck up into the air, but it leaves them perfectly fine. And the truck falls onto the road and almost kills his fiance. She's driving their brand new truck that they drove up to Oklahoma together. And yeah, she is freaking. She is losing her mind, scared.
You think though that I would have just stopped though and been like, this is too close for me. We're good. I'm going to stop comfortably back here just in case I got to make a decision to turn and run, Also too, we're going to find that the storms in these movies are kind of like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. It almost is sentient in this movie. It's chasing them. It's following them. It's really weird. This tornado has it's got a beef with Bill in this movie. It's like a vendetta. It doesn't like him.
Yeah. It also sounds like a T-Rex too, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, you're right. It's like
every now and then there's roars in this. There's actual there's audible lion and tiger roars in this. When the tornado comes along, it's crazy. Bill has completely forgot that he is there to get divorce papers signed. And now, just like that, he is along for the ride. He is heading up this team again. But Joe's truck was just destroyed. So he's like, what are we going to do? Bill's like, well, you know what? You can use my truck. Me and my fiance, we just purchased it. But you know what? We're here now. You will use my truck. So they load Dorothy 2, number 2, onto the back of his red pickup. And they put his fiance in the back because, of course, that's where she goes, right? He's like, I'm going to sit up here with my ex-wife. Honey, you sit in the back, okay? And She's like, well, where are we going? He's like, well, there's another tornado. She's like, we're chasing another one? And he was like, yeah, that's what you used to do. And she was like, when you said you used to chase tornadoes, I thought that was a metaphor. How do you know so little about this person that you're marrying? He's a weatherman. He told you to use chase tornadoes. How are you shocked right now? And you just followed him down a road where, like you said, she could have stopped. Like clearly, it's wide up. Like we're like in the prairies here of Oklahoma. Like there, you can see a tornado like a mile away. Like why would you keep following them? But anyways, she's going along with the ride. She's in the back of the pickup now.
We're gonna find out in this movie Bill is a horrible fiance to her. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
guy. Lady, like again, just another red flag. You need to just get out of there, okay? Just stop. But, we'll see how that goes, Tim. That's right. Now they are going to chase a tornado. And it looks like Jonas and his little soccer mom gang have gotten ahead of them, it looks like, and they are going to get the drop on this tornado, it looks like, potentially.
Yeah, this tornado has sisters. So now we've got a big tornado and then two, I guess, like thinner tornadoes, but they're over water. So it's like a water tornado. And this is the scene that most people remember from the Twister movie. Cows flying through the air. They're just like driving down this causeway, and then there's this cow just like trying to get his footing, but he can't because he's in the air being thrown around.
This was kind of a cool scene back in the day. Now when I see this and I watch this, I'm like, this is kind of stupid because this is incredible. They get sucked up in the tornado. Okay. There's a tornado that literally lands on the truck. Now there's two of them that are on the truck spinning around their car, apparently not lifting it. Before there was one tornado that lifted their truck. Well, the other truck flipped it, threw it in the air, God knows how high. It flew down. There are two tornadoes on this truck, and this is just spinning around in a circle, and they're all screaming. And then that's it. It stops.
I think the tornado thought, well, I've tried. This truck isn't going anywhere. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm going back up to the clouds for now. But don't wait. Don't get too comfortable because I'm coming back. That's what a tornado is saying, I think.
This tornado is like a slasher or like a killer in a slasher movie. It's like he's like Ghostface. He's just playing with you, playing mind games and stuff. He's like, ha ha, I'm gonna go, okay, and he disappears. And you're like, did he go away? And you don't know if he's gone or like would he come back again? I don't know.
Like hiding behind a barn or something.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah, just a giant tornado standing there behind a barn being like, does he see me yet? I don't know. Anyways, they all decide they're really hungry and they're going to go to Joe's aunt's house, Aunt Meg. And she's just apparently going to make them a bunch of food. That's what they've decided. All like 20 of these bums.
Yeah, that's funny you said that. I have my notes here. I was like, her aunt is just ready to feed like 15 people on the drop of a dime. Breakfast at that.
Yeah, she is. You're right. She's dropping a lot of food here. It does look amazing. Maybe she doesn't get a lot of people, but that's weird, right? That how would you have like 6 dozen eggs and all this pancake batter and bacon? Maybe. I mean, I guess you live on a farm. I don't know what's up with that, Aunt Meg's house. She's got all these windmills and stuff around her house. It really did give off this weird like recluse vibe. Like she was like, if you remember old lady Hackmore's house in Ernest Scared Stupid, Eartha Kitt, when she played that lady and like she had all these weird like crazy windmill things and stuff dangling around. That's kind of what Aunt Meg's house reminded me of, except the Oklahoma version of that.
Yeah, it's a little more it's a little tidier.
Yeah, a little less home welding stuff going on. But she is welding actually, ironically enough too. She's teaching somebody how to weld, apparently.
Yeah, she's very rustic. Very rustic looking house and property.
Plowing ahead, find out that there is a storm coming. I guess it's a couple counties away. There's a storm been raging for about 15 minutes now. They think it's going to develop into a major storm now. So everybody, they all steal grandma's food or Aunt Meg. They steal her food. They use up her hot water in her shower. About 16 people just came in there. Everyone took a shower. Probably took a big dump in there too as well. And she fed them and they're taking their food and they're going to go now and chase a storm.
And I just started laughing because it's like, why? Like every scene transition is the same. They chase tornado, then they stop, and they're like, wait a minute, I hear there's a tornado down the street. It's like a half hour drive away, and let's go off-roading.
They are driving across like people's fields and stuff too, like total disregard for people's for their property, for their livestock, for their crops.
Well, I think it's like the tornadoes in the area, so it's like open season. They're like, it's all gonna get ruined anyways.
Can you imagine that? You're just like in the backyard of your farm and there, and you're on your tractor, and all of a sudden someone just flies like 15 cars and 20 Dodge Caravans fly across your property, and you're just like, it's storm season again, Martha.
They're gonna start wrecking the lawns again. So they see this, they can't see it forming, but they know they're close. Bill can smell it because he's a human barometer. So he knows that they're close. And his lackeys in the mobile weather unit, I don't know that's what I'll call it. It's just a van with a bunch of computers in it. But anyways, they're like, he's like, it should be anywhere near you, Bill. Like, it's somewhere's there. And Bill's like, we're inside of it, and the thing just drops down, not inside of them, but they're not like on top, but like pretty much like directly in front of them.
That's right. This storm faked them out, folks. This storm was like, you just walked into a trap, bitch. Guess what? No. And
Gotcha.
all of a sudden, yeah, he's like, oh, ho, ho, you've sprung into my trap, sir. That's right. This storm it's totally sentient, and he knows now. It's just like, they're trapped down a road, and it just starts hailing hard on them now. And this storm just hits. And all of a sudden, they're like, we got a chopper. And this storm just kind of again, jumps out of nowhere, like teleports, shows up, and starts just going crazy and creating havoc. And all of a sudden, their truck starts spinning around, and the tires are sliding, and it knocks over a power line, and there's just electricity exploding everywhere and stuff now. And, the Dorothy machine, one of their Dorothy machines, I think this is the third one now that they've wrecked. This thing is just flipped over again. All the sensor balls fly out everywhere. And for some reason, she's trying to pick them up and like put them back in the canister, which to me, it's like, why are you grabbing them and like chucking a couple at the thing, or just leaving them and hopefully the tornado picks them up? Because either way, if it picks them up, the canister or just free, you still win. It's a win, I feel like.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Did they forget to turn it on or something? And like, that's why I should have put them back in the machine. And that's why I don't understand, because it's there. They're all out. Certainly it's going to get sucked up into the suck zone.
Yeah, they're in the suck zone. I feel like almost you're at the edge there. You're in the danger zone, as Kenny Loggins would say, I think.
Well, apparently that's futile, because they would have died. Bill was pretty sure that they were going to die. So this tornado regroups right in front of them, and it's got him for sure. But Bill's like, no, get in the truck. And they get in the truck, and they go in reverse, and they back away from it for a little while. And then it disappears. And Joe is just so distraught and upset that Bill didn't let her release these balls. She's mad at him for like saving her life. And here's what she says, because he's basically like, look, what are you, crazy? Like, at what cost are you going to like continue to do this? Like, get close to these tornadoes.
You've never seen it miss this house and miss that house and come after you.
She thinks it's sentient, Paul.
This thing is like Jaws in Jaws Revenge. It follows you to like Cuba.
You don't know what it's like to see that tornado go by all your neighbor's house and then destroy your own house. That one tornado's been after me since. I'm going to get it back.
Like, you don't know what this thing can do. Have we not been chasing storms for like the entire time apparently I've known you? How many years is that? I'm a weatherman. I made the damn machine that you're trying to get in the sky. I think I know about the tornadoes.
So Bill Paxton's kind of giving her a big speech, and he's like, hey, you're so obsessed with this tornado chasing that you're failing to see what's right here in front of you. And she's like, what's that? What's that, Bill? And he's like, me, I'm here for you. I'm here. And meanwhile, we see that their CB radio was left on during this whole time. And so in another vehicle nearby, his fiance, again, Bill's fiance, is just listening to them argue. And Bill basically telling his ex-wife that he's hers, and like they belong together. This poor girl, this poor fiance.
This man is scandalous.
We're at the drive-in now. It's nighttime. We're at the drive-in, and we're watching The Shining. The Shining's playing for I don't know what reason. There's probably some kind of significance I didn't bother looking up, but that's what is playing. We get some sappy stuff where Joe and Bill are basically flirting with each other while his fiance is just like hanging out in their hotel by herself, watching the news, watching the weather of all things. She's so disinterested in weather, but I guess maybe she's getting a knack for it now because she's just sitting in her hotel room by herself watching weather. I don't know. Anyways, the weather report says, hey, there might be some tornadoes going on tonight. And wouldn't you know it, it starts thundering and lightning. The wind's picking up. Bill's spidey senses are tingling because he can feel a hurricane coming, a tornado coming. And this scene, like, for as foolish as all these tornadoes are, this scene is like really cool. So it's like you see this giant movie playing, The Shining playing, and every now and then there's like a flash of lightning. And then it's kind of revealed that, whoa, like right behind the screen is this giant twister, but nobody could see it because it was nighttime, right? So immediately everyone starts freaking out, like, get into this bunker, this building. And they all go into this like, I don't know, it looks like an old airplane.
It's like a garage, or a hangar or something like that.
Garage or, hangar. Yeah, basically. And this part is probably my favorite part of the movie, when the tornado comes in and it tears up the screen while Jack Nicholson is like, here's Johnny, and starts, axing through the wall in The Shining, or axing through the door. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I got nothing to complain about or make fun of there. It's actually just really, really cool looking. So this scene, okay, so now everybody's in this hangar. And I was a little confusing because it seems like a lot of them are like going downstairs. But then in like some quick edits, like they're running downstairs. But then in other edits, they're just like all huddled together in the corner of this hangar. Okay, so this tornado has got a serious vendetta for Joe now, because this tornado is running around this drive-in, this whole place, and just picking up stuff and biffing it at the hangar. Everything that is being lifted off the ground is being thrown at or into the hangar. Cars, signs, drive-in signs, everything is just flying into this hangar. And one guy, who is it? I think it's the guy who plays Ferris Bueller's best friend. He gets hit in the head with a hubcap, gets a small cut on his forehead. That's it. That's the only injury in this whole thing.
Yeah, you know what? I thought it was weird. Or maybe it wasn't weird, but I thought it was kind of remarkable that, again, for an area where there's a lot of tornadoes, it seems like that you think you'd just be accustomed to that sort of lifestyle, that there was a lot of things hanging in this hangar. Like just on the wall, pipes, wrenches, cars, like things that could hurt you and potentially crush you if, lifted up by, say, I don't know, a tornado. That you think you would just probably just be like, hey, around here, we just keep all this stuff kind of on the ground, or like, in underneath something, or like weighted, or the toolbox, but the toolbox is bolted to the ground or something like that. There would be somewhat, maybe not seismically tested, but, like earthquake or like hurricane or tornado proof or something like that, So it just wouldn't fly off and smash people. You think you just keep all that debris down a little bit. That would be the smart idea. But apparently everyone just keeps all their rusty trucks and toilets and sinks and and everything just outside, and like dead planes and stuff. So, just lots of stuff for tornadoes to grab and just have a ball with.
So this tornado, is like, all right, you guys got in the hangar. I threw everything I could at you, literally. I'm going to go somewhere else, and I'm going to get someone that you care about. So they hear on the news that there's tornadoes forming in the community, the city of Wakata, which is like, that's where their Aunt Meg, that's where Joe's Aunt Meg lives, where they just all had that big giant breakfast. So they immediately like, oh my God, we have to go save Aunt Meg. So they all leave. They can't call her because the phone lines are down. They show up at her house. They're too late. This storm, this tornado has ravaged her yard and just like messed up her house. But she's okay. Thank God she's okay. So that was just like a little bit of like a stern warning from the tornado. It was like, see, Joe, I can get to your family now.
Yeah, I know. This thing is just like, you're right. He's just like, I'm coming for you. You think you can keep hiding from me? I'm gonna just lure you out here and kill the ones you love. You can't escape me. They're standing there rescued Aunt Meg and the ambulance is going away and stuff. They're just because they know a storm's coming. At least it sounds like tomorrow. It's gonna be like an F5. They're like, oh, it's a big one. Here comes the big showdown. And they're thinking, just about everything that's happening there. And they're kind of standing there and they're looking at the wind chimes going around and stuff. And all of a sudden it just hits Joe. She's like, I know how we can make this all work and how we get these little sensors to fly. So she's like, everybody get every Pepsi can you can, apparently. It's nice product placement. Everyone just chug a bunch of Pepsi. And we're going to just make a bunch of little makeshift little propellers. And we're going to tape them onto our little sensor balls. And I like to actually, when they're doing this, that when they cut up the cans, you can see everyone progressively has more and more like bloody fingers from the pop cans. It's like no one has any gloves or anything.
Well, and they're making these like in the back of their their mobile weather unit, their van with computers. Like they're just, and so like they're not even able to like stay still while they're doing it. Like it's hard to, I could see that. Oh, and by the way, Bill's fiance finally had enough. She was like, you know what? This isn't for me. And you two belong together. It's okay. I'm going home. We're never going to see each other again. And Bill's like, okay.
Yeah, and it looks like now we're just going to go chase this storm, Tim. We're going to go chase this metaphorical dragon here. We're going to go and this is the biggest storm we've seen in this movie so far. This is massive. This is supposed to be an F5. This thing is huge on the screen. It looks pretty cool, actually, I got to say. Watching this now again, pretty all right for the time. It's not that bad. And when I was a kid, I thought this was so cool. This scene.
Yeah, this scene is probably the best scene in the movie. And it's cool that it's in broad daylight too. Like every other scene in the movie, I think they kind of like, it's probably easiest to do these kind of graphics and stuff, like this sort of CGI tornadoes in darkness than it is actually to make a good looking one in daylight. And they do a really good job with this. This F5, I think they say it's like almost like a quarter mile wide or something like that. Maybe even a half a mile to a mile wide.
Yeah, this is a giant storm. If real life, there's no way I'd like ever want to get close to this. I feel like they get way too close to this thing. I feel like how close they are. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know these things, but I feel they get way too close to this to the point where you should be sucked up into this or severely affected by this tornado.
Well, they're getting so close. They're on the road here, and they are so close that a giant house rolls onto the road, the highway right in front of them. And Bill Paxton's like, well, I guess we're going in. But then the rival team shows up. Jonas and his team of croonies. They're like, well, you know what? We're going to get closer to the tornado than those guys this time. And Bill Paxton, like, cause they all communicate on the CB radio. And he's like, Jonas, don't go that way. Don't go that way. And he's like, you just mind your own business. And then out of nowhere, this giant like pole or something, some kind of big giant debris just smashes through the windshield, kills this Jonas guy, like their rival. He is dead. And the pickup truck just proceeds to get lifted into the air and thrown over into the field and smashes and explodes.
So yeah, when they first got to the F5 storm, they tried to launch a Dorothy up into the sky, and for some reason they're like, it's too light. This thing will not fly in the air. This giant canister is not getting sucked up in the air by an F5 category tornado. Okay, that's apparently taking everything else in his path except for this stupid canister. It's not flying. So they're like, it's not good enough. We need to do something else. So that's when they get this bright idea that they start flying at this thing in the cornfield, and they open the door of their truck as they're driving this thing at this cornfield. They kind of put into cruise control there, and they both jump out now and let this thing drive into the tornado. And he's going to sacrifice his truck, I guess. Finally now, apparently this is heavy enough to suck them both up.
It makes no sense. Considering it's already picked up a pickup truck. We've seen it pick up pickup trucks already and throw it. This thing is sitting on the back of a pickup truck. So logically, yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why they need to drive their truck right into it for it to suck that thing up.
If they're sucking up people and stuff too, like how can you not pick up this canister? I'm sure this canister weighs probably like a couple hundred pounds, probably the same as a person, if not more than a person. So like if it picks up, like, I don't know. There's a lot. Anyways, plowing ahead. It looks like they suck up Dorothy, whatever one now we're on, whatever many canisters.
4, Dorothy 4. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Well, the 4th Dorothy canister here now that they finally got. And it goes up into the sky and the thing starts chirping away and talking to their computers. And they've got some info now on a tornado. It sounds like they've mapped a tornado finally. And everybody is cheering and applauding and having a great time.
But it's not over. We forgot about the vendetta that this tornado has against Joe here, right? He's like, wait a minute, I see you down there, Joe. And he's like, I'm coming for you. So it chases them across a field. Somehow they're running away from a tornado. I don't understand how this works. And they go into this barn, and there is just like knives and scythes, like all sorts of sharp metal objects all over the place. And he's like, nope, not in here. Which I thought was actually pretty funny. It was nice to see them make a smart move. So they run out of this barn, and as soon as they get out of the barn, this tornado just wrecks the barn. So they run into a smaller barn beside it, and they tie themselves to some poles. Is that what's going on here? And the tornado goes right over top of them. This rope that they're using is like so strong, and it keeps them there. So basically, Bill and Joe here are they're basically floating, like they're in the suck zone. And it's like amazing to them, playing this like glorious music because they're in the suck zone. They can finally see it. No one's ever got to see the suck zone before with their own eyes, right? And they're able to look up. They have no goggles, no eye protection. This thing is ruining buildings, throwing vehicles around. But fortunately, this rope is really strong, so they're totally safe. They don't get hurt at all. And they watch the suck zone until it's done sucking, and then that's it. It just goes away.
That's right. And a family comes out with their little child, a little young blonde girl, and they're all smiling now, like, "Oh, the storm's gone. This is great." I also thought too. Again, I'm not a scientist. I was told as a child, like, folks, I'm gonna preface this. Hitting the head a bunch of times. There's a bunch of things that have happened in my life so maybe the person I am. So maybe I could be totally wrong here. But I thought in the middle of a tornado or something like that, you were in the eye of something like that it was essentially a vacuum. And there's no air in a vacuum. So would you not like suffocate? Anyways, regardless, they hang on to this little rusty pipe it's like a water pipe or something, but it's not even like a big water. It's just in the ground a little bit, it seems like. It's not really, like, I don't really know how this held on out of everything. But regardless, you're right. It looks like they're okay. And they're going to make out with the little sprinkler going off beside them here, and things are all happy for them now. They've mapped this thing out, and they're going to just, they're not going to get divorced now. It sounds like they're going to work on things.
And we get a zoom out, a glorious music, and that's it. That was Twister.
Yeah, and there's like 15 minutes of credits on this too, for some reason.
Oh, there's a lot of credits for that. Well, I mean, if you consider how many people were involved to put this whole thing like CGI back in the 90s, that's probably a pretty long list of people, I think. I don't know.
You're probably right there, actually. It's true. I mean, this is a big for the time. I mean, I'm sure even now you still need a lot of VFX to do this. So I could see. I thought I heard rumblings that they were going to do another Twister movie for some reason because they haven't murdered enough things from our childhood. Apparently,
Twister 2 is coming out in 2024.
All right, there you go. That's right. If you haven't had enough things from your childhood just resurrected as little cash puppets, there you go. Here's another one for you folks. Get ready.
Yeah. It's sad that Bill Paxton won't be in it, though.
That is sad. I miss Bill Paxton. R.I.P. I miss that guy. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P. too, as well. Dusty. Big shout out. Love that character in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's one of my takeaways from this movie. After watching this again, and it's been so long since I've seen Twister. I really miss Bill Paxton. Like, I think that I don't know, he's one of those actors where, like, even if I don't like the movie that much, I still really enjoy watching him in it. With that said, he's in a lot of really good movies.
Yeah, he is. He's a really great actor. I know. And when it's like, he's in like, it's like, to me, it was like, it's like a, not Bryan Adams, but something like that, where it's somebody you're like, oh, Bryan Adams. You're like, then you're like, oh, here's his song. It's like this song. Oh, I like that song. I like that song. I like that song. Then you realize you're like, oh, I actually kind of like a Bryan Adams fan. I like a lot of these songs. This is like with Bill Paxton. You're like, oh, he's in this movie, and you're like, oh, and I'm actually kind of like a Bill Paxton fan here. He's in a lot of good movies. And anytime you ever hear anything about the guy, they're always like, he's a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy, you know? So by all accounts, genuinely cool dude and a great actor, and killed it in this movie too.
Was like, he passed away like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was 2017. I wrote that down for some reason.
Oh, was it 2017?
2017, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like a lot longer than that.
No, man. Philip Seymour Hoffman died in 2014 as well too. That didn't seem that long ago to me actually as well. That was kind of crazy. I was like, holy, whoa. Again, R.I.P. Miss that guy. Especially, man, because especially doing this movie, I'd love to see Dusty back in this. I don't want to see like a Dusty ripoff, you know?
Oh, they probably will, or probably have. I would think at this point they'll probably have totally different characters altogether.
Maybe. I just wonder if it'll be like they'll have like Dusty's cousin, Rusty, or something.
Yeah, or like maybe it'll be Helen Hunt's daughter, right? Because Helen Hunt probably got too close to a tornado, and it's coming back to finish off the rest of her family.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. Probably what happened, that's how I would work it out, is Bill Paxton, a.k.a. The Extreme, got too close doing research. Yeah, you're right. He got sucked up in a tornado now. And for some reason now, his daughter has to go and, like, murder the tornado or something to, like, avenge him. Maybe we'll find out. They're going to have to do even more research to find out more stuff and to make it 3 hours instead of 15 minutes.
50,
I don't know. They're going to have to, so 3 weeks in advance or something. I don't really know, or what their idea is. Maybe they'll have like a laser system that shoots down the tornado. I think that would be kind of cool.
Had they destroy them in Sharknado? Or did they just blow them up?
I don't know. I never watched it. I never seen it. It just looks really dumb.
It is pretty dumb. It's pretty stupid.
But it's not like it's bad for the sake of being bad. So that's not.
It's not as fun. It's too intentional.
I think so. But just to bring it back to this movie real quick, I think it's not terrible. It's not it's very repetitive. It's basically the same 2-3 scenes about 4 times over again, and then here's the credits. But watching it again, it's not bad. It's for a little fun little rip through once in a while. It's something.
Like I find that there's like we listed off a bunch of disaster movies, natural disaster movies, like at the beginning of the episode, and after we named off those names, it kind of got me thinking that all in all, I don't think there's actually really many good natural disaster movies. Like Titanic, I mean, arguably, I think Titanic is awesome, but that's a little bit different. That's like, the enemy is an iceberg. It's not quite the same as like a tornado or things like that, right? So I won't count Titanic.
I would love to do a Titanic special on the show.
Maybe we can talk about doing the sequel. In the realm of disaster movies, though, I would say Twister's probably got to be up there with among the best.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's a tight cast. It's a great soundtrack. Steven Spielberg is like an EP on this movie, so people were behind this.
Yeah, and I think the graphics have aged well. I mean, you can tell it's not up to par for what we expect in our modern day here in 2023, but for mid-90s, this doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, some of the shots are good. The tree flying at the car at the end there, that looks terrible. But some of the tornadoes look pretty good. You're right there. So
the cow doesn't look very good.
No. Yeah, it's kind of like 50-50. The longer it's on screen, I don't know. But it's you're right. There is some ridiculous things about this movie too. It is kind of fun. I just really like it for Dusty, more or less. That's about it. I think that's great. I also like the Goo Goo Dolls song in this. It's really good too. So check that out if you like music, guys. Long Way Down. That's a great track, actually. I think it's pretty slick. It's a good little slice of 90s kind of grunge nostalgia.
So I don't have a whole lot more to say. This is a good start to our 3rd season. I enjoyed watching it. I'm glad we finally got to do a natural disaster movie.
Yeah, this was kind of a fun one. This wasn't really like a ha one. This was like a just a fun little light kind of movie that, yeah, I can't wait to do. I hope we get to do some more action movies. We'll see. But I know we've got some really fun ones picked this year. I can't wait to do a couple of them. And I'm really excited for a few of them that we have coming up next year. So I think that's a good spot for us to leave us, Tim. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah, you're right, Tim. I think we have to go somewhere over the rainbow. So we'll leave it here. And we're going to let Dusty take you out on this one.